Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning. Our topic will be on NetSuite Analytic Warehouse, the Analytic Warehouse solution from Oracle NetSuite. Presenting today, we will have Pam Kite, a Principal Solution Consultant at Oracle NetSuite. Sharon Lobo, our NetSuite account manager, will be available during the Q&A session for any questions that may come up. And then I'm Eric Sheehan, CEO of OTT Inc., your NetSuite business solution provider partner. Our agenda today is pretty full. We've allocated an hour for this webinar. The first few minutes I will spend going over a couple PowerPoint slides to give you a high-level overview of what the solution is, and then we will transition things over to Pam. Pam will spend about 45 minutes giving you a demo of the solution so you can see exactly how this solution looks and how it operates, and then we'll have 5 minutes for any Q&A at the end of the session today. So the first thing is just a high-level overview of how NetSuite Analytic Warehouse works. It's really focused on solving enterprise-wide data viewing issues and data analyst issues. It's going to help you with data management. It's a centralized data source to see all of your data from not only NetSuite, but other applications that you use. It will provide you great business visibility and reporting, both of which will allow you to make more timely decisions for your business and hopefully better decisions for your business. So here's an example of what a good picture of what things look like here. If we look at your core NetSuite data is depicted here in the top portion. A lot of people may have a legacy ERP system that they've migrated away from to NetSuite. So for example, maybe we migrated you from Dynamics GP to NetSuite, but you still want the ability to view some of your legacy Dynamics GP data. NetSuite Analytics Warehouse would allow you to do that, to pull that data in. Many organizations also may have a key third-party database that's critical to running their business. That can be connected with NetSuite Analytic Warehouse as well. So then you can see everything that you need access to can be in a single place for viewing, reporting, and so forth. AI, a lot of people have probably heard of artificial intelligence. NetSuite leverages AI within the NetSuite Analytic Warehouse to look at your data and give you kind of some predictive foresight into what's happening with your business. It has what we call auto insights, which will look at your data and they create these snapshot views or visual insights for you based on the data and patterns that are identified. So let's look at what your environment might look like. If you don't have NetSuite Analytics Warehouse, you've got your NetSuite Core ERP here. If you do need to connect to other solutions and you don't have the warehouse, it's going to require a connector into NetSuite, and then you're going to connect to your third-party applications, maybe external data warehouses and other business intelligence tools. If you adopt and implement NetSuite Analytic Warehouse, it will give you the ability to have all of these in a single solution. This is just a shot at some of the things that happen behind the scenes. If you're one of the more technical users, just some of the code that's going on that's going to drive the results that you are seeing. We're not going to visit in depth about these, but these are areas within NetSuite. You can see how broad it is. We've got things in sales, payroll, inventory, financials, manufacturing, projects. These are all areas that the Analytics Warehouse is connected to provide you snapshots and views. In additional data sets, so in NetSuite, we talk about the sales process, which is order to cash. The procurement process is procure to pay. You're going to have visibility into all of these key areas within NetSuite and get you the information on what's happening. These are some samples of just where pre-built dashboards are going to be found in NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. So you can see some, very critical areas here around sales, order management, inventory, your financials. And then again, more just examples of detailed dashboards. This is a very robust product that's going to cover a lot of areas within your NetSuite usage. External database connectors, so things you can connect to. This is just a list of examples, external databases that you might want to bring in. So if you have an external SQL database, we can connect to that and bring the data into the data warehouse. Application connectors, maybe you're using something like Salesforce or HubSpot for some lead generation, or you have another legacy ERP that you need to bring in until you're fully migrated. You can see a list of other applications that NetSuite has pre-built data connectors for these applications in place already. Just a continued list of other connectors from the previous screen. So what is the value of NetSuite Analytics Warehouse compared to the competition? Number one, it's built for NetSuite transactional data. As you can see from the previous slides, a lot of pre-configured views to the data you're going to be using. You can customize your data without doing coding. It has embedded connectors, both for databases and other applications that are already built into the connector. So it becomes an all-in-one solution for you that's ready from day one, and it is very competitively priced. So at this point, we're going to make a transition, and I'm going to change the presenter over to Pam Kite from NetSuite, and Pam will be walking us through the demonstration of NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. All right, I think we've made that successful transition. Pam, I will turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good, Eric. Yeah, so I've got a pretty thorough demo that I'll basically take everyone through, but yeah, I think you guys will really get excited about the Analytic Warehouse. The product is very easy to use. It really is designed to be a self-service type of application. A couple of things I want to point out is with NSAW, it is a prepackaged solution. It does come with dashboards and KPIs. So from a demo perspective, I'll walk you through the pre-built dashboards and KPIs. Those dashboards can easily be modified, so I'll walk you through that. We'll also go through the Content Explorer. The Content Explorer is a great repository where it basically documents everything in the data warehouse. So you can go there if you're looking for, specific key metrics, or you're looking for answers to common business questions. This is the great place to go to find that information. We'll also walk through the data pipeline. As Eric had mentioned, quite a bit of subject areas. We refer to the different subject areas as data pipeline. So think about things like in NetSuite, of course, I'm sure everyone enters journal entries. So there's definitely data pipeline for journal entries, sales orders, purchase orders. So when I refer to data pipeline, that's what I mean. And we'll go through the third party bringing data in from a third-party data source. I'll walk you through what those pre-built connectors look like and how you guys will be able to connect. And then we'll spend some time really going into kind of the BI tool. I'll be talking about, different things where you can do calculations. There's quite a bit of visualization capability that you can do in the product. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll go through and show how you can use those different visualizations. I'll actually go through and kind of build a report on the fly and show you how easy it is to use the Analytic Warehouse. And then we'll wrap up with some of the machine learning and AI capabilities. You'll find with the product, there's quite a bit of exciting new features that we've added into NSAW when it comes to AI. Okay, so let's jump into the product. So as we get into NSAW, you'll come in here into the home page. And this really, here you come into the navigation point, and you can see here that you really can search for anything. Here I actually have gotten in some of the various dashboards that I've created. I can see, different things that are new. I can get into workbooks. I can get into different things. But basically, when you come in here and navigate, you've got your home page, you've got your catalog, you've got your data, and your machine learning. As we go into the catalog, we'll first start off with some of the dashboards that come with the product. So one of the things that you'll see here is you've got my folders. And so that's really where I can go in, I can copy dashboards, I can come in here and basically save any report or dashboard directly here into my folder. So I can see different reports and so forth that I've created. When you install NSAW, typically what you'll see is this common folder and this NetSuite folder. I actually have folks on my team that have created all of these other folders, and really, what I've seen with other customers is they'll go in and create different folders. They may have like a finance folder, a supply chain folder, operations folder. So keep in mind that you can create, any type of naming convention, here. But you'll definitely see the NetSuite out of the box dashboards. And so here, if we go into the detailed dashboards, you'll notice the different subject areas. And so with this, we really have different areas around inventory, finance, manufacturing, projects and support, purchasing, and sales. So I'll spend a little bit of time kind of going through some of the pre-built dashboards that come with the product. As we go into these areas, you'll notice quite a bit of dashboards that come with the product. So if you guys are using, our CRM capability, there's things like opportunity, win-loss types of reports, there's pipeline reports, there are things around sales order details, gross margin. Think of your sales area as really being your CRM and kind of your ordered cash, area. So there's quite a bit of, things around sales orders, things around item fulfillment. So let's kind of dive into a couple of the dashboards. So here we're looking at the sales order details. And what you'll notice with the pre-built dashboards, you'll see quite a bit of visualizations. Most of the time when you're going into the pre-built dashboards, you'll typically see several different visualizations, and they're, just different types of reports that you'll see. So like in this example, we can see our sales order amount, whether it's been billed or it's pending fulfillment. We can look at order value, our average order value by quarter. So as we hover over each of the quarters, we can see our average sales order amount. And then here we can look at kind of our open sales orders. We can look at it by quarter. We can see what's been billed, what's currently pending fulfillment. And then you can also have kind of a table view that really kind of shows you more of your details. So here I can see all of my various sales orders. As I scroll down the list, I can see, all my details here. Up at the top, if we want to go in and up here, we can look at by subsidiary. So if we want to hone in on another particular subsidiary, of course, we can simply come over here and select and add them over here. Any of these drop-down lists, this is picking up all of your NetSuite data. So all of the data that's in your ERP directly flows into NSAW. And then here, if we wanted to come in and maybe we want to look at our ABC company and our Abbott company, notice how we can kind of just change this information on the fly. So keep in mind, all of these dashboards, you can easily come in here. You can make modifications to these dashboards. I'll show you real quickly. What a lot of our customers do is they will go in, they kind of keep these dashboards in that NetSuite folder structure. And what they'll come in here and do is you can come into this edit mode. And in this particular case, when I was talking about the data pipelines, we're using the sales order and the return authorization data pipelines. What you can do is you can come over here and you can do a save as. And if you wanted to modify this dashboard, of course, you could just save this into your folder. And then if you wanted to add anything over into the dashboard, you just expand here. And maybe we want to put department or something, maybe we want to drag department up here to the top, we can easily do that. So definitely like to convey that you can easily make changes to any of these dashboards, but I would say best practice is kind of leave the NetSuite, these dashboards in place and then make a copy of them. Let me go into some other areas. So if we look at inventory, this is a really key point, and I wanted to also talk about some of the capabilities Eric had talked about, had mentioned inventory snapshots. And one of the things that you can do is you can leverage what's called snapshot capability. And so let me go into here. And so you'll notice, and what we mean by snapshot, let me give you an example. And this is a common use case that I see with a lot of our customers is in NetSuite today, when you go into NetSuite and you're looking at your inventory counts, of course, you look at what's in your inventory, and of course, all of that information is real time. And so one of the things that you can do with NSAW is you can do a snapshot in time. So let's path forward 3 months from now. It's July 24th, 2025, and you might want to go back and compare and say, gosh, what did my inventory look like back in April? And so that's where you really can leverage that snapshotting capability. Inventory is always a really good example. That's something I've seen quite often as a use case. So again, we've got different dashboards that focus on inventory. If I go into like the purchasing area, another key area that a lot of our customers really get a lot of value out of is vendor spend analysis. A lot of times we want to look at, who are our top vendors, what different vendor categories. If we hover over like the consultant, we can kind of look at the top spend. And then if we want to look at the details, of course, we can do that. So we can even look at our vendor spend by location. And of course, if we want to focus in on a particular vendor, we can simply come over here, select the vendor, and kind of look at more of the details focused on like ACOM, for example. One last area I want to show you is finance. So when we go into the financials, there's quite a bit of things around finance where you might want to look at your revenue. If you're a global company, this is where we can kind of hover over and look at different countries. So here, kind of looking at more of a map view, we can look at different quarters, different months. We can see by location. And then if we want to drill into the details, of course, we can look at that from here. There's also other kind of areas, not going to go into all of these, but if we wanted to look at things like our payables analysis, there's definitely different things that we can view here. All right, so that really, again, is the pre-built dashboards that come with the product. Let's go in and talk about the Content Explorer. On the Content Explorer, this is really where we basically have full documentation on our full warehouse. So let me go over here into the various subject areas. So as Eric was showing on the slides previously, we've got different subject areas. Notice here, this is kind of where we're looking at things like our checks, our credit cards, our deposits. We roughly have over 105 different subject areas. And if we wanted to look, at particular subject areas, we can see kind of the description over here on the right-hand side. So again, this is kind of your go-to place for looking at kind of your documentation of the data warehouse. The other thing too is really when we think about kind of time to value, all of this is built out. So when we think about different metrics that you're getting with the solution, you'll notice roughly, over 2,800 metrics that come with NSAW. One of the things that you can do is if you were wanting to look at different areas, subject areas, you can come over here and kind of hone in on, particular areas if you're wanting to view that. Here, I'm just kind of looking at all the metrics. And then if you want to look at things like key metrics, of course, you can view that directly here. It will give you kind of what the metric is and a metric description. There's also business questions. So when it comes time to answering common business questions, so things like, what are my total deposits? As we kind of walk down the list, there's 326 different business questions that the analytic warehouse answers. So again, you can kind of leverage the different types of business questions. So the Content Explorer, again, is just a place where we've got all of our documentation. This is kind of your go-to place if you're looking for, a specific functional area. All right, let's talk about the data pipeline. So on the data pipeline, let me go down here. And with the data pipeline, I know I've got a lot of stuff in my demo environment, but typically the data pipeline starts with this icon, this little purple icon right here, and it will start with NetSuite. So this is basically all of the different data pipelines or subject areas where you can leverage and build reports. So I think about, in finance, a lot of times the finance team, they're looking at month end at maybe specific accounts. They might be looking at expense accounts or revenue accounts. There's this pipeline area where you can basically use account analysis. There's also manufacturing areas. There's assembly bills and unbills. There's work order information. Eric had talked about AI and talking about there's predictive analytics that we've built in. So things around churn predictions. If we go down the list, and I just want for you guys to see kind of the robustness of the data model, because again, it's very, very thorough. We can see where we've got customer invoices, customer payments. I know I was working with a customer where they were trying to build a report that contained their opportunities, their sales orders, their item fulfillments, their customer invoices, and customer payments. And I was showing them how, with all of this data pipeline, you can easily join that and add that together. If I go here, here's that inventory snapshot that I mentioned before. So you can leverage that data pipeline to build snapshots on your inventory. Here's where we've got things like journal entries, item receipts, item fulfillment, and then we've built data pipeline where we're looking at our order to cash kind of process. So again, just different areas, procure to pay, revenue. I get a lot of things around kind of revenue recognition and revenue arrangements. Here's kind of the sales order. There's also the prediction around stockouts, journal entries, time tracking, vendor bill, vendor payments, work orders. So the point here is just showing you how rich our data pipeline is. Now, let me go in and pull up, and let's just start with the vendor bill. And I'll show you what the data, again, kind of what the data pipeline looks like. So as we look at the vendor bill, notice that we've got, again, all of these different areas over here. If I expand upon my vendor, on your vendor record in NetSuite, these are all of the various fields that's in your NetSuite environment. Now, you may have created custom fields in NetSuite. Of course, those custom fields can be brought over here, and you can definitely do reporting. So, in this case, if I had some custom fields that were on my vendor record, I could easily report on them. Now, the other thing too is if we go over here, maybe I want to just pull in vendor name. This is going to pull all of my vendors here into a report. The other thing too that we've done in the data pipeline is you'll notice where I've got vendor bill details. You might see some metrics in here. You'll definitely see fact. This is where we have created different metrics where we've basically created a fact table. And with that, if on the vendor bill, these are different metrics that we've pulled in. So you might want to look at, vendor bills and the total number of days where your vendors are overdue. There's also metrics that we've done at the line level. So as we go over into the line level, we might want to look at the total number of vendor bill lines at the line level. We might want to look at item quantity. And then here, if we go into the key metrics, these are additional metrics that we've built in. So you might want to look at vendor spend analysis. And so again, a lot of value here with the different KPIs and different metrics that have been built into the data model. Now, I mentioned earlier, I was working with a customer that wanted to pull in, opportunities and sales orders and item fulfillment and customer invoices and customer payments. If we look at the vendor side, we can do the exact same thing. So if we go in, you can click here and just click on Add Data. Maybe I want to look at purchase orders. So if I come up here, I can just simply enter in purchase order, and you'll notice my data pipeline, NetSuite purchase order. So I can add that to my workbook. So here we can basically see our NetSuite purchase order. I might also want to add in things like my item receipts. So notice here that I can easily combine different data pipelines from a reporting perspective. And you'll notice here, I now have my purchase order, my item receipt, and my vendor bill. With our data model, we really have built it very consistently. So as I showed you before, on the vendor bill, I pulled over the vendor company name. If I was to come over here and click on purchase order and scroll down here to vendor, what you're going to see again is a very consistent data model. This is where we've done all of the different joins in NetSuite Analytic Warehouse. So that really is the data pipeline. The value here, again, is we've done all of that heavy lifting. We have done all of the joining of the tables. And really at the end of the day, we're just making it very easy for you to build reports very easily. Okay. All right, let's talk about the connectors. So one of the things that you'll notice here, and let me draw your attention over here to the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice this create option here. When we go in here, this is where we can create workbooks, we can create our connections. I'll talk a little bit here in just a few minutes about data sets. I'll come back to data sets and data flows. But really, if you're looking to create connections, this is where we have our pre-built connectors. So if you're wanting to connect, you can even connect, like I get questions a lot of times where a customer might be using NetSuite Planning and Budgeting. Can I connect NetSuite Planning and Budgeting to the Analytic Warehouse? And the answer is yes. You'll notice here EPM Cloud. You might have Amazon that you're working with, so we definitely have connectors for Amazon. Some of the ones that I see, Databricks, I know it's working with a customer that was using Databricks and they were wanting to combine their Databricks data with NetSuite, and again, wanting to use the data warehouse. And so these are just a listing of all of the different pre-built connectors. SQL Server is another common one that I see. Snowflake, Salesforce definitely is another one. And so you basically would come in here and put your connection in here and you can connect to your Salesforce data. Now, a lot of common use cases for that is you can basically create a connection. And as I mentioned before, this is where you can create data sets and you can combine both your Salesforce.com data and your NetSuite data together. So in the tool itself, there's data sets and data flows that can be leveraged. So again, that's kind of part of the solution. All right, so we've kind of covered, this is kind of the dashboards, the Content Explorer, the data pipeline, and the third-party data sources. Now let's kind of focus more on the BI tool, and we'll go through the calculations, what that looks like. I'll show you pretty robust capabilities there. We'll go through the visualization and go through building a report and wrap up with the AI. All right, let me go back, and I'm going to go into another area. I'll just show you, I kind of like to show different functional areas. And so let's go into our NetSuite journal. Every company does journal entries. So as we look here, of course, you've got journal entry details, you've got your subsidiary, department, class, location, accounts that you might want to do, building reports. But let me focus on the calculations. One of the things that you can do in the BI tool is you can create calculated fields. And so you'll notice here, as I go in, I can create a calculation. I can give it a name. Over here on the right-hand side, this is where we have, again, the math. So if we need to add numbers together, do multiplication, we have all of our operators. You'll notice where we can do different aggregations. So we might want to do a count, or we might want to look at our max or our min. We might want to do a ranking or look at our top 10 or bottom 10. So all of those different aggregations. You can use math, so different types of math options here, as well as expressions. I get questions sometimes, can I build case statements in here? And the answer is absolutely yes, you can. So as you can see here, quite a bit of different options when it comes to creating different types of calculations. All right, let me go back here and let's go in and let's talk about some of the visualization capability. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and pull up my customer payment. And what we're going to do in this report, what I'm going to do is start just a very simple report where I want to look at all of my customers and I want to look at their customer payments. And so as we come over here, we can expand and let's just pull over our customer name. So as we can see here, this is all of my customers that I have in NetSuite, all the way from A to Z, all of my customers. And then what we want to do is let's look at some of the metrics. So on the metrics, as we expand upon this, we can pull in things like we can look at unpaid amounts. But let me kind of just show you here. Let's just go in this use case, let's just go in and look at all of my customer payments that have been made. And what this is doing is this is pulling all of my information that's in NetSuite. So say, for example, I went live January 1st, 2023. And so in this example, I'm looking at all of my data from January 1st of 2023 to today. I can see here all of my different customers. Well, let's go in and maybe narrow the data down, and maybe I want to go in and look at let's look at our top 20 customers. So here we can go in, you've got your top or your bottom, and what we want to do, let's just go in and select 20. So now we have our top 20 customers with their payments. I also might want to go in and let's just sort them. Let's look at, highest to lowest. So we can see right here, Abbott's kind of our highest customer, with Dollar Tempest being second and Smith Supplies being third. One of the great things with NSAW is there's quite a bit of visualization capabilities. One of the things that you can do is you'll notice right here all of the different visualization types. And so if I hover over, we can look here, we can see that this is a horizontal stacked. We can simply click on that and it will, again, kind of provide that visualization. Let me walk through just several different visualizations so you can see that, as I showed you before, that was kind of my table version. So that's kind of a different visualization. We might want to look at stacked areas. Of course, you've got different, area. There's also different things like scatter charts. Scatter charts are really good for looking at trends. But here, if we wanted to kind of look at this, as we hover over each of these, we can see kind of, our Oz Incorporated, their customer payment to date is 536,620. Over here, if we go and look at Abbott, again, we can kind of see the values there. If we want to go in and look at some other, visualization types here, we can kind of hover over and see that. So the key point here is just showing where there's quite a bit of different visualizations that you can do. There's even maps, like the map that I showed earlier. As I kind of hover over that, if you want to look at like sales, I see common dashboards where you want to look at sales over, your countries, but lots of visualization. So here, I just want to kind of look at a bar chart and kind of see that data. Let me also expand upon that. So a couple of things that you can do is if we want to go in and maybe we want to add to this dashboard, maybe I want to go in and look at maybe my various subsidiaries. I can simply come over here, drag and drop my subsidiary. Of course, here I've got basically multi-subsidiary where I've got US, UK, headquarters in Australia. If I wanted to just look at my customer payment, say for the UK, I can just simply click on the UK. Here we can kind of hover over each of the values and see that information. We might also want to look at our time dimension. So a lot of times you might want to have reports where maybe you're looking at a particular quarter or particular year. There's definitely things where you can build reports where we look at month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year, or we might want to just come in here and simply select our period. And in this case, if I want to go in and maybe I want to look at August of 2024, we can just simply go in and select that data. So lots of flexibility in being able to add things, having different filters of your information. Now, you also have the capability to, as I showed in the pre-built reports that come with NetSuite, remember when I was showing you, most of the dashboards had like 3 or 4 different visualizations. You can definitely easily do that. One of the things that you can do is come over here. You can see all of the different visualization types like I was showing before. One thing to note, I do like to point this out because this definitely is a differentiator. I know in standard NetSuite, if you guys were to use like the Suite Analytics product, there are bar charts and stack bar and pie charts, but they don't have all of these different visualizations where you can create heat maps and tree diagrams and sunburst and donuts. So there definitely is a lot more visualization capability here in NSAW. I do want to share with you some of the newer kind of AI capabilities. There is what's called language narrative. And so here, if we want to go in, we can just simply drag over language narrative. We can drag over any of these and create, different types of visualizations. So quite a bit of capabilities there. Now, let's go in and on the language narrative, I can simply come over here, pull in the customer name. I'll go back to the key metrics and let's just pull over customer payment. So what's nice here is this basically is giving me a narrative telling me here are my top 20 customers. And we can see here White Rabbit and Aladdin Realty are in the lead. And so as we kind of hover over that, we can kind of see White Rabbit here. And then if we want to go in, maybe we want to just look at our total company and clear this out. Again, we can kind of see that data here. And we can see that Forex customer China is our largest customer. So here we can kind of hover over that. And it actually gives me a narrative of the dollar value that they've paid. So quite a bit of capabilities, that we have around AI. There's definitely different metrics. I do like to expose that. Quite a bit of metrics that we can pull in. All right, let me go in and I'm going to show you a couple of examples around some of the AI capabilities. So let me focus on, this is going to be focused more on kind of financial information on like invoices. So with NetSuite Analytic Warehouse, in the product we have AI capabilities called Auto Insights. And what this is doing is I'm actually executing the insights. So the data that I have that's contained in my NetSuite invoice, there are things, different metrics where I've got like the invoice number, the invoice ID, the customer name, state, class, all of these things are contained. And I forgot to point this out, but this data is actually, I'm showing this data in an Excel file. And what you'll notice here is in this Excel file, I've got roughly 8477 rows. And so it's basically providing insights. And so it's got the count of my records. As I go down this list, it will basically kind of build out different insights. So we can look at things like the due date of my invoices. We can see seasonality. We can also look at trends over time. All of this data, I've got data from 2020 to 2023. We can look at the number of days to pay, as well as the value, and looking at the class of the vendor. So what this is doing is really analyzing all of my various data that I have here. So you really, within NetSuite, when you're building reports out, you can really leverage this auto insight capability. One of the other things too that we are going to be enabling is what's called the AI assistant. And in the AI assistant, this will be where you can ask questions about your data. So stay tuned for that. Right now, I do not have this demo or enabled in my demo environment. But again, another key feature, as you hear about the AI capability in NetSuite, you will hear the term AI advisors and AI assistants. And this is really where we're adding that assistant where you'll be able to, again, ask questions. Just like in NetSuite today, when you go into Suite Answers, we now have added the virtual support assistant, and that's where you can go in and ask questions. So let me just keep going and scrolling down here. One other quick thing to highlight is as we hover over, any of these like clusters and charts, you can kind of see different values. So like, for example, here, I can see that I've got my customer, Scott Ties, and gosh, Scott Ties has not been a very good customer. The days to pay have been 710, so pretty high on the days to pay. As we come down here, we can look at days late. I can see right here Red Food, which is one of my customers. They've been late, late on their payments. But here we can see all of the different insights into our data that we have here. All right, let's see. Let me show you one other quick example. And this again is just another example. Now on the insights, you can have insights into your NetSuite data. You could even have Excel spreadsheets. So this is a great example of an Excel spreadsheet. And let me go back real quick. Let me do something before I actually do that. Let me go in, and I should have downloaded this before. But let me just show you this Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so a real simple Excel spreadsheet where I'm looking at product reviews. And in this case, I am looking at things where I have basically kind of put all of this information, exported it into Excel. And so I'm looking at all of my various product reviews. I can see kind of my emotion, my sentiment, first name, last name of who did the product review, their age, their location, their actual review. And so what NSAW is doing is with that file, it's analyzing all of the data. And so you can see here all of the columns that I showed you in the Excel file, the emotion, all of that. And then here, if we want to go in and look at our insights, it's discovering all of our insights here. So as we go in, we can see that we've got 102 rows in this particular Excel file. And we can kind of see the ratings. We can see kind of who had negative emotions versus neutral versus positive. We can see a row count. We can see all of the different kind of insights here. And keep in mind with the BI tool, here we're providing all the insights, but if we wanted to simply, come over here and build a report, maybe we want to look at the ratings, we want to look at the reviews, we can simply click that in here. So you even have the capability here where we can kind of chart things out if we want to do that. You can create different tables. If we wanted to create another type of report, we could bring in more of a table view that contained different things as well. So definitely like to show, how you guys can bring even simple Excel files in, provide those insights into your data, and really do very detailed reporting. This tool is very robust. The Oracle Analytic Cloud tool has been around for a very long time. Quite a bit, as I mentioned, quite a bit of visualization capability. So at the end of the day, really when it comes to the NetSuite Analytic Warehouse tool, really the value that it adds to your company is with NSAW, it is an industry-leading cloud data warehouse solution. We have built it specifically for NetSuite. As I showed you with the data pipeline, that's all very NetSuite specific. So all of the different areas, you'll notice very robust, content data pipeline that comes with the system. The other value point is you can definitely bring in data from other third-party data sources, being able to bring things in, Salesforce, Google Drive, any other, systems. I see a lot of times very common use cases of companies that are using a HubSpot or a Salesforce.com. This really enables you to be able to combine that data very, very easily and do reporting. And then the third point, a very flexible BI tool. With NSAW, it comes with the Oracle Analytic Cloud BI tool. You don't have to go out and purchase a separate BI tool. So again, that's a really good value add with the solution. And then the last point is being able to give you executive and managerial insight into your business. With the pre-built dashboards and KPIs with the system, if you think about day one, those dashboards and KPIs are available to you. We're picking up all of your data, all of your configuration, and you'll be able to easily use those dashboards. As I showed you early on, you definitely have the capability to make modifications. You can take those dashboards as a starting point, copy those, and easily make changes to them. All right, one last thing. One other thing I did want to show you, and this is a website that you can go to. I would highly recommend, we can definitely provide this link to you, but I definitely wanted to show you, we definitely have a repository that you can go to. It's at oracle.com, Business Analytics Data Visualization. This is actually a public library that you can go into. It contains an idea lab, it contains examples, it contains videos, great place to go. You can look at various examples where you can use our Oracle Analytics. There's some things around AI, different examples. Here There's like the predictions that we talked about, different predictive analytics, but these can give you kind of some different sample, ideas on different things that you can do with NSAW. But just wanted to kind of point that out as well. All right, I'll turn it back over to Eric to wrap up.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Let's hold your screen there so people can get that web address if they need to. Thank you for the demo. I'm going to unmute everyone here and see if there's any questions that anyone may have. Okay, it doesn't appear we have any questions at this time. So again, thank you all for attending. If you do have any follow-up questions, you can reach me directly here at OTT at esheehan@ott-inc.com. Thank you and have a great rest of the day.